4 disturbing stories from colonial America. Number 1. A silent predation, the Roanoke colony disappearance. The settlers arrived on Roanoke Island in 1587, full of hope and dreams of a new beginning. John White, the governor, sailed back to England for supplies, leaving behind over 100 colonists, including his own granddaughter, Virginia Dare. Upon his return in 1590, he found the colony eerily deserted, the word Croatoan carved into a post, but no other trace of the settlers. Theories abound about their fate, from assimilation with local tribes to deadly conflict, but the truth remains shrouded in mystery. Archaeological digs have found European artifacts on nearby Hatteras Island, but no definitive evidence of the colonists' fate. The idea that an entire colony could vanish without a trace sent shivers down the spines of other early settlers. The disappearance was not just a logistical failure, it became a symbol of the treacherous and unknown dangers of the New World. Family members left in England never learned the fate of their loved ones, adding to the haunting aura of the mystery. The lost colony has inspired countless books, documentaries, and theories, but it remains one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries. Imagine the terror of the remaining colonists, facing an unknown threat, cut off from help and unsure if they would ever be rescued. The dense forests and harsh conditions of the island would have made survival challenging even without the added fear of impending doom. The local tribes, though initially friendly, may have viewed the settlers as threats or invaders, adding another layer of peril. Disease, starvation, and exposure were constant threats, made worse by the isolation and uncertainty of their situation. Some believe the colonists tried to sail back to England on their own, only to perish at sea, their bodies claimed by the unforgiving Atlantic. The idea of entire families disappearing, leaving behind only cryptic messages, is chilling and evokes a sense of helplessness. The carved word Croatoan remains one of the most enigmatic clues in American history, hinting at a connection yet providing no clear answers. Modern historians and archaeologists continue to search for answers, but each discovery seems only to deepen the mystery. The story of Roanoke serves as a grim reminder of the perils faced by early colonists and the fragile nature of their settlements. The psychological toll on John White, returning to find his family and friends gone, must have been immense, haunting him for the rest of his life. The barren and overgrown ruins of the colony stand as a ghostly testament to the struggles and ultimate fate of those early pioneers. Roanoke Island today is a historical site, drawing visitors who hope to catch a glimpse of the past and perhaps unravel part of the mystery. The story has become ingrained in American folklore, a cautionary tale of the dangers and uncertainties of venturing into the unknown. The absence of physical evidence leaves much to the imagination, making the story of the lost colony even more haunting. Many have speculated that the colonists' disappearance involved acts of desperation and betrayal, adding a sinister human element to the mystery. The eerie silence of the deserted colony, with no signs of struggle or immediate catastrophe, suggests a slow, creeping disaster. The fact that no graves or bodies were found indicates a mysterious end, with the colonists seemingly vanishing into thin air. The story of Roanoke has inspired a sense of unease and fascination for centuries, a dark chapter in the early history of America. The enduring mystery of Roanoke continues to captivate, reminding us of the fragility of life and the relentless grip of the unknown. As you ponder the fate of the lost colony, one must wonder, what really happened to those early settlers? Did they find salvation or succumb to the harsh realities of the New World? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Number 2. The brutal reality of Jamestown. The year was 1607, and the settlers of Jamestown were unprepared for the harsh realities of their new home. Starvation quickly became a pressing issue, leading to desperate measures and dark acts of survival. During the starving time winter of 1609 to 1610, colonists were forced to eat dogs, cats, rats, and even shoe leather to stay alive. The situation grew even more dire as some colonists resorted to cannibalism, consuming the bodies of those who had died. Historical accounts and archaeological evidence confirm the gruesome reality of cannibalism at Jamestown. The colony's leader, Captain John Smith, was gravely injured in a gunpowder accident, further demoralizing the settlers. Relations with the Powhatan Confederacy, initially cooperative, turned hostile, cutting off essential supplies and trade. Disease and malnutrition ravaged the colony, with many settlers succumbing to dysentery and other illnesses. Fresh water sources were contaminated, leading to widespread sickness and death. The fort, meant to protect the settlers, became a prison as they faced an array of threats from within and without. The psychological strain of isolation, hunger, and constant threat of attack took a heavy toll on the colonists' mental health. The remains of Jane, a young girl found with marks of cannibalism, provide chilling evidence of the colony's desperation. Jane's skull shows clear signs of post-mortem butchering, a stark testament to the lengths the colonists went to survive. The fort's location, chosen for its defensive advantages, proved to be a swampy, disease-ridden trap. Captain John Smith's leadership was both a boon and a curse, as his strict discipline kept order but also bred resentment. The Virginia Company, which funded the colony, faced criticism for its lack of support and unrealistic expectations. The arrival of new settlers and supplies in 1610 brought some relief, but the colony's early years were marked by extreme suffering. The tales of Jamestown's hardships spread back to England, serving as both a warning and a testament to the settlers' resilience. The colony's survival seemed a miracle, given the myriad of challenges they faced in those early years. The discovery of tobacco as a cash crop eventually brought prosperity, but it came too late for many of the early settlers. The story of Jamestown is a haunting reminder of the harsh realities faced by those who ventured into the unknown. Despite the grim start, Jamestown became a symbol of endurance and the will to survive against all odds. The sacrifices and struggles of the Jamestown settlers laid the groundwork for future colonies, but their suffering is not easily forgotten. The dark chapter of cannibalism at Jamestown is a reminder of the thin line between civilization and savagery in desperate times. Archaeological finds continue to shed light on the daily struggles and horrific choices faced by the colonists. The story of Jamestown is one of resilience, but also one of the brutal cost of survival in an unforgiving land. The early years of Jamestown were a time of constant fear and uncertainty, where death could come from any direction. The lessons learned from Jamestown's struggles helped shape the future of colonial America, but the scars of the past remain. Jamestown stands as a testament to the human spirit's capacity for both endurance and desperation in the face of overwhelming odds. As you reflect on the harrowing history of Jamestown, consider this. How far would you go to survive in such dire circumstances? Leave your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Number 3. The Savage Land. King Philip's War. The year was 1675, and tensions between Native American tribes and English settlers erupted into one of the bloodiest conflicts in American history. King Philip, also known as Metacomet, led the Wampanoag, Narragansett, and other tribes in a desperate bid to reclaim their lands. The war began with a series of brutal attacks on colonial settlements, leaving a trail of destruction and death. Entire villages were burned, and settlers were slaughtered or taken captive in horrific raids. The violence was reciprocated by the colonists, who launched devastating retaliatory strikes against Native American villages. The war was marked by atrocities on both sides, with no quarter given and no mercy shown. The dense forests and rugged terrain provided cover for ambushes and guerrilla tactics, making the conflict even more savage. The colonists, though better armed, were unprepared for the ferocity and cunning of their Native American adversaries. Many settlers fled to fortified towns, abandoning their homes and crops to the advancing warriors. The war disrupted trade and food supplies, leading to widespread famine and hardship among both the colonists and Native Americans. Captured settlers faced a grim fate, often being tortured or ritually executed as warnings to others. The conflict spread rapidly, engulfing much of New England in a wave of violence and bloodshed. King Philip's War was a desperate struggle for survival and sovereignty, with both sides fighting for their very existence. The death toll was staggering, with an estimated 5,000 Native Americans and 2,500 colonists losing their lives. Entire tribes were decimated, their populations reduced by disease, starvation, and relentless attacks. The colonists' superior firepower eventually turned the tide, but at a tremendous cost to both sides. The war left a legacy of bitterness and mistrust that would shape future relations between Native Americans and European settlers. Many Native American survivors were sold into slavery or forced to flee their homelands, scattering to distant tribes. The war's end saw the execution of King Philip, his body gruesomely quartered and displayed as a warning to others. The brutality of King Philip's war shocked contemporaries and left deep psychological scars on the survivors. The war was a grim reminder of the devastating impact of colonial expansion on indigenous populations. The loss of life, land, and culture for Native Americans was catastrophic, marking a turning point in their history. The conflict highlighted the settlers' vulnerability and the fierce resistance of the Native American tribes. The war's ferocity and the scale of destruction were unprecedented in the early colonial period. The stories of massacre and retribution from King Philip's War have become part of the dark folklore of New England. The war revealed the fragility of the colonial settlements and the constant threat posed by conflicts with Native American tribes. The psychological impact of the war on the colonists was profound, instilling a lasting fear and suspicion of Native Americans. The legacy of King Philip's War is a complex one, marked by both the heroism and horror of those who fought and died. The war's outcome reshaped the balance of power in New England, but the cost in human lives and suffering was immense. As you contemplate the savage history of King Philip's War, ask yourself, how does this dark chapter in history influence our understanding of the colonial experience? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Number 4. The savage reality of Bacon's Rebellion. In 1676, Virginia was gripped by a violent uprising that would become known as Bacon's Rebellion, a precursor to the American Revolution. Nathaniel Bacon, a wealthy but discontented planter, led the revolt against the corrupt colonial government of Governor William Berkeley. The rebellion was fueled by anger over high taxes, lack of protection from Native American attacks, and perceived government favoritism. Bacon's followers, a mix of poor farmers, indentured servants, and former slaves, saw the rebellion as a chance to challenge the colonial elite. The conflict began with unauthorized attacks on Native American tribes, escalating tensions and violence in the region. Bacon's forces captured and burned Jamestown, the colonial capital, in a dramatic act of defiance. The rebellion highlighted deep social and economic divides within the colony, pitting the frontier settlers against the wealthy planters. Governor Berkeley's efforts to suppress the rebellion were hampered by his lack of support from the colonial militia. The rebellion saw brutal skirmishes, with both sides committing acts of terror and retribution against their enemies. The death of Nathaniel Bacon from dysentery left the rebellion leaderless, allowing Berkeley to regain control. In the aftermath, harsh reprisals were meted out to the rebels, with many hanged or exiled for their participation. The rebellion exposed the vulnerabilities of the colonial government and the simmering discontent among the lower classes. Bacon's Rebellion has been seen as an early expression of populist anger and a precursor to the American Revolution. The conflict underscored the dangers of unchecked power and the potential for violent uprisings against perceived injustice. The rebellion's legacy is a complex one, with Bacon viewed by some as a hero of the people and by others as a reckless agitator. The harsh response by Governor Berkeley and the colonial government highlighted the fragility of their authority. The rebellion disrupted the colony's economy, with plantations and farms destroyed and trade severely affected. The aftermath saw significant changes in colonial policy, including the strengthening of military defenses and reforms to address settlers' grievances. Bacon's rebellion left a lasting impact on the development of American political thought, influencing future revolutionary movements. The fear of further uprisings led to increased efforts to control and pacify the lower classes, including the expansion of slave labor. The rebellion's violent legacy serves as a reminder of the potential for social and political unrest in times of inequality and injustice. The story of Bacon's Rebellion is one of both heroism and brutality, a dark chapter in the early history of colonial America. The rebellion revealed the deep fractures within colonial society and the potential for conflict between different social and economic groups. The events of 1676 foreshadowed the larger revolutionary struggles that would eventually lead to American independence. The rebellion's impact on Native American tribes was devastating, with many caught in the crossfire of the conflict. The story of Bacon's Rebellion is a cautionary tale of the dangers of demagoguery and the power of popular anger. The rebellion's brutal suppression highlighted the lengths to which the colonial government would go to maintain control and order. The legacy of Bacon's Rebellion continues to be debated by historians, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of the colonial experience. The rebellion's mix of idealism and violence offers a window into the turbulent and often brutal world of early American settlers. As you reflect on the savage reality of Bacon's Rebellion, consider this. What lessons can we learn from this violent uprising about the nature of power and resistance? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. And that's it from this video.